So this is called 4:30 Friday. I painted it last year, and looking at it now, I really reflect on all my years at Chaff, in a corporate defense law firm in New Orleans that I worked at for 12 years, and it was a good job. And I was a receptionist, so I guess you would kind of liken me to her, I guess. And beyond old school, you know, it was fun to watch in a way. And I liked it, to tell you the truth. I really did. I liked that kind of, I fit in an old-fashioned way. And I think about these guys on the elevator, if they're coming or going. I worked right by a bay of elevators for 12 years. And I was in kind of a temple. I was the receptionist. And I was all on my own there, and in a beautiful lobby. But it all had this elevator bank, and so you would always see these people coming and going, and I remember wanting to do an elevator scene and thinking that, and when you see Mad Men so much and you see the elevators, and I thought I definitely want to do that. So that was probably the start for me. But then what I really wanted to do was this paper spike, and although that doesn't seem like such a big deal now, but then you could mix it with the dartboard and it becomes a little bit more like she's the subject of issues or something. The dartboard, I felt like this was almost a way to bring your eye all the way over here to make the action over here. And I did that a few times with the dartboard to the left. And I think it does kind of add to it. Maybe it goes along with that pin the tail on the secretary idea, and just kind of, well, you know, when you're at work, I am, like someone has told me this about the reception position in particular. They were like, how can you take this? People are always coming at you, and it's always answering their questions, and oh, they just pick. And I guess I like that because I like that boom, you know, you give to me, I give to you. You know, I like that, and I'm good at it. That's the real dish, is that that's me. It's my nature to be receptive or whatever, I'm a good receptionist. So maybe that's what that is that you have to have stamina to be in that position, you know. And so maybe that's what it is people coming at you, and you got to give it right back, and you got to have your wits about you, you know. It's not easy, and it's not for everybody. You could take her for the receptionist. I know plenty of people have compared me to this girl, although of course I don't think I look like that, but anyway, that's her position. And the fetish look is something that, you know, I do over and over again, and I've been kind of questioned for that, I think, as far as me being a woman, but I give a shit. Especially now. And then the real fetish quality of this figure is just ridiculous, you know, just the whole booty popping and all this, and the boobs. It's just crazy. It's like out of hand and really impossible. And then also her feet are kind of floating up, like this chair's kind of up there. Her feet are kind of like, I don't know, she looks kind of impossible too. And I really like this part under here where it's getting kind of darker, and the little shading here, you know. The idea is, are these guys the boss? Is probably what I would think of in Chaff. Majority men, although when I left, the managing partner was a woman. But there's still so much odd sexism in New Orleans, or tradition, like the King of Rex is like some old man, some old business, you know, wealthy guy, and then the queen is like a debutante. Like that stuff, really, you see that like year after year. So there's always this weird stuff in the air like that. And then you go to an office, and this was the oldest law firm in New Orleans. So imagine the stories you hear. My friend was in her 70s when I left. One of my friends was in her 70s when I left, and she would tell me these things that, you know, like one of the guys, of course he was dead by the time she's telling me the story, but one of the founders was really into the watch, and he'd be like, if you were a few minutes late, he'd look right at you and look at his watch and watch out, you know, we have problems here. And so these things that you're just like, give me a break, like gross. But you could also picture it because we're in the same hallways. they did move in the 80s, but still, the stories are right in front of you, you know. Yeah, right, she worked the switchboard. She did, and you hear so many stories. I mean, I was there for so long. I heard all the stories about, you know, that like one lady was on the switchboard and she was like on the loudspeaker. She didn't realize it, and she's like, I can't find Mr. Faringa's hole. Where is his hole? You know, and you would just hear these things and you'd just be like, it just, of course, New Orleans is so full of stories as it is. And then add this to it, it was such a amazing world in your mind, you know. And but then you would see these things all the time. Like then you would hear years later, oh yeah, that one was sleeping with this one, and oh, he went downhill because he ended up doing that file clerk. Of course, we had attorneys that were married to their previous file clerks. If they played their cards right, mama never had to work again, you know. And you go like, this isn't just like in the past. This is what this man's wife is today. So this is, you know. And I remember also hearing stories, like a lady used to call me that was one of the receptionists, and she would say, oh, those wives used to make me so mad. They'd come in with their fur coats, and there I am like a dummy, you know. And I would think to myself, all these people are rich. Who cares, you know? I wouldn't trade places with any of their wives. You know, they had a few nice ones, but, you know, they're workaholics. They're addicted to working, so. And where I worked, on one side was Admiralty, and that was the more high pressure side. So I was on the hot seat a lot of times. If you dropped a call, you had hell to pay, because sometimes it was literally life or death. So you really could never, of course, this is like when I first started working, I did what they called beeper duty, where this was a little bit before cell phones, so people had to take a beeper with them on the weekend in case there was an emergency on a vessel. So you see, it was kind of a different time then too, and then later, of course, it was just cell phones, but anyway, it's, you know, you just look at this and you just think it's the past, but then you could go right, you have the same feelings in a way, you know. And also, I remember when I was watching Mad Men, and, you know, Chaff represented tobacco. One of the guys that watered the plants, he got his name on a list because he was a smoker. And you could sign this list if you were a smoker, and maybe you would be a part of a class action suit. And someone found out that he put his name on a list, he could never water plants in our office again. So when Mad Men had this part where there was a list on a chalkboard or something, or on like the cork board, and someone came up and said, you know, like one of the secretaries had signed the list, and one of the other secretaries said, you never put your name on a list. I howled because this was reality to me, you know. And to this day, my whole motto is like, cover your ass, you know, never, always defend yourself, never back down, never admit guilt, but always do your best, always, you know. It was hard in a way. You always had to deliver, and they were always very focused. But I run that way too. I'm a very focused person, so I never would crumble, but I'm sure plenty of people would want to. I wanted to have the light on these guys very, very harsh. So I put a white, very bright light. I wanted it to be like really on their faces, like it was real strong. And the idea is, are they coming in to ruin these ladies' weekend, 4:30 Friday? Are they going to come in and say, hey, we're all working Saturday, you know? Or are they leaving and these girls can go like, oh, finally, you know, we can get out of here? Or again, to spin it all together, maybe these ladies are in charge and these guys, who cares, you know? So there's a lot to, there's very little, but there's a lot to think about at the same time too. And there's also, there's nothing in this office. I mean, this thing, she has 2 highlighters and a stapler, you know, and a calendar with absolutely no writing on it, and papers with absolutely no writing on it. What is this? Like, there's nothing, like, we don't write things here. Like, okay, now I've got this blank piece of paper to bring you. Make sure you put it on that paper spike now. But don't you feel like that sometimes in your job? Like, it's just like, oh, I don't know, whatever, you know, like this whole kind of system of just like there really is very little difference between working at this job or that job. It's always just, you know, let me go through this steps, and then when you're gone, who cares? There's going to be another one that's just going to go through those same steps, and it's a funny, you're a cog in a machine. And you know what else I think of when I see this is, I remember one time I had, well, this is probably something you can't put in also, but I remember I delivered a letter once, and I had accidentally cut my finger on it, and blood had splattered on a letter, and I just acted like, you know, I delivered it like, I don't know, you know. Like, you guys told me to never admit guilt, so guess what? You know. I like the idea of age too. Like, I think this lady here is very, she's real formal, and then of course you have the see-through stuff too, and she's real pretty, and yet that weird gray hair where it's like bringing age into it. And I like that. I don't know why I made her gray-headed, but I did that with a few of the paintings too, where I think, because I'm getting older obviously, so you know, I think about that and what that means to, you know, women in particular. You gotta just be strong, or else forget it. I could talk about the references. The references for the men were, here's the little Roger doll, and here's the Dawn doll. So you could really see that I was trying to think about as little as possible. And then the lights behind the lady here, I was thinking of the lights. Remember the lowered lights in the first season of Mad Men, where all the scenes were like of Dawn or whoever, and then the lights would be above them. You know, it was that encroaching feeling. I was trying to get that encroaching feeling behind this whole, you know, little scene. And this is also what I was saying about this is also the idea of the political shoebox, where it's very enclosed. So the whole idea is kind of what's in your mind. And it's the fantasy of it is to be very claustrophobic with all this togetherness, you know, like this power play between all these people in this little room. It's really supposed to be almost like the set of Mad Men, where there's the glass door, and you know, there's just another world there where there's like a whole, like maybe you would open the doors and then you hear the typewriters feverishly going, you know. Again, a world that doesn't exist and may never have existed, you know, except for in movies. Like Chaff wasn't like that. Chaff was luxurious, you know, and everyone had a cubicle, and you didn't walk in and hear typing. Like that didn't happen. Although there was, you would hear, at Chaff, you did see glimpses from the past, like there was one secretary that did do shorthand, so you would go in and see someone doing shorthand for someone that had been there as his first job, you know, as an attorney, and there she would be doing shorthand, and so sometimes you did feel like, wow. So when Mad Men did come up, at certain times I would say, well, you know, wow, I feel like that's what we went through. The whole idea that, you know, people fight you, especially when you're a woman, that what are you doing? Like, why are you painting sexy girls? And, you know, we should be above this, or this is sexist or whatever. But my whole, you know, when I was faced with that question as being, are you a feminist? I thought, you know what, am I? You know, I never really thought about it. So it made me think about, well, what do I think of when I think of power in women? And I think of, oh, okay, I think of like pop star feminism, like Beyonce. Like, okay, let's be strong, but let's see some boobs too, you know, or I have no problem seeing some thigh in there too, you know, like I want to be a billionaire, not me, but I want to, you know, like someone can own the world, but she's got nice legs, you know, like that's what I believe in. Kind of what was it, is it Camille Paglia? The Camille Paglia kind of idea of feminism, where Madonna was a feminist, that whole idea. That's what I kind of think. And Elizabeth Taylor was a feminist. That's what I believe in. And I want to have freedom. If I want to paint a woman like that, that's feminism. That's what I think. And it's funny, this formality and this sexuality, I did feel in the era a lot at Chaff, you know, that, and it's a lot of innuendo or just things you hear about, and maybe even not even true, but things that you even, just rumors or just things that you, and then the way people dressed, of course, it's attorneys dress very formally, and for the most part, especially in the beginning of when I worked there. We never even had casual Fridays when I first started working there. And you hear about the ladies that they couldn't wear pants and things like that, and you hear about old school stuff that you can't believe in a way. But I think a lot of it was a lot of the people were uncomfortable too, and maybe that's not so great. I think a lot of things have gotten a little bit better for people. I hope so, but especially women, you know, a lot of constraints on women, and maybe you don't realize it at the time until you can wear a skirt, you know, or until you can wear pants, I should say. They could only wear skirts. And oh, I remember too what happened when there was a story about how a girl, she basically changed the whole way just by force, because someone said she was wearing a pantsuit, a very nice pantsuit, but you weren't supposed to wear pants. And someone called her out on it, and she said, "No problem, I'll take my pants off." And she took her pants off right there. Now, of course, is this true? Is this not true? But who you hear it from is real. And the things I've seen, I saw someone take pantyhose off in front of me. I mean, it's not that far-fetched. I mean, I've seen a lot, you know. I've seen, you know, a lot of comings and goings, and I wouldn't put it past somebody to say, "Fine, take my pants off, and now what? I don't have a skirt." So she wore pants, you see, so that, well, put your damn pants on now, you know. And then from then on, they could wear pants. Now, is that true? I don't know. It's a nice story, though. And you know what? There's still flavors of it. In the courtroom, you only could wear skirts. You couldn't wear pants. And that was that day. That was like in that time. That wasn't innuendo from the past. That was what we really did. And I also, again, heard, that's not true. We can wear pants. So, I mean, you just, you know, I don't know. There's just so much to it that things change, but then they stay the same, and especially in New Orleans, you know. The good old boy system that is prevalent in every single business that ever did exist or ever will exist, you know, that is just guys sticking together, maybe looking down on the girls a little bit of sexual tension in the air, and nothing really direct, but you would always hear stories that, like, I know one story was that there was this girl called the Cookie Girl that you could tell whenever she slept with somebody. This wasn't at Chaff, this was just in downtown New Orleans folklore kind of thing. But they said it was true, that every time she slept with somebody, she would leave a cookie on that chair so you could tell who it was that she had slept with, like, oh, she was the Cookie Girl. So there was stuff like that you heard of, and you didn't put it past the place one bit, because people did kind of flirt and joke a lot more there. And there was the whole idea about playing hard versus working hard. Like they were addicted to working, and yet they would go on liquid lunches at a moment's notice, and, you know, so it really was like Mad Men.